Welcome to this exciting launch event live stream by E2E Networks. Today, we are thrilled to announce a powerful new innovation on E2E Cloud, ETV, that can massively simplify the lives of data scientists experimenting with machine learning. We will also share details of free credits for those who are interested in testing out ETV and how to avail them. E2E Networks, as you all may know, is an NSE-listed AI-first hyperscaler and a cloud infrastructure company providing GPU solutions enterprises, startups. I request everyone to please put their mics on mute. So E2E Networks features top price performance ratio and is building for the AI future. E2E hosts top clients like IIT Madras, Jarvis Labs, Camcom, and IIIT Bangalore. Today for this session, with me, I have the CTO of E2E Networks, Mohammad Imran, and product engineer Amol Umbarkar, who will give you a walkthrough of how to use Jupyter Notebook on the cloud. Before we dive deeper into the incredible features of ETV, let's take a moment to understand the foundation upon which it is built, Jupyter Notebook. For those who might be unfamiliar, Jupyter Notebook is a popular open source web application that allows data scientists to create and share documents containing live code, visualizations, and explanatory text. What sets Jupyter Notebook apart and makes it advantageous to data scientists is its interactive and collaborative nature. It provides a flexible environment where you can seamlessly combine code, data, and visualizations, making it easier to explore and analyze complex data sets. Jupyter also supports multiple programming languages, including Python, R, and Julia, offering versatility to data scientists across various domains. I will now bring in Imran sir to discuss some of the ways through which Jupyter Notebook helps data scientists and why we launched it. Hello, Imran sir.
Hi, Isma. Hi, everyone in this call. Thanks for joining.
Could you tell us a little bit about how Jupyter Notebook has streamlined data science workflows?
Right. So I think everyone is aware of the explosion of interest around machine learning and data science in the past few years. And of course, with the advent of foundational models for GPT and others, there is a massive interest in AI and data science. And one of the fundamental building blocks, or rather like where people have traditionally struggled, is the need to manage basically like complex data systems to be able to make sense of data. I think if you look at machine learning and data science from the time of MapReduce and so on, 10 years back, there used to be a lot of DevOps skills that were requisitioned from typical mathematicians and data scientists who were supposed to learn all this to get something meaningful done with Hadoop, MapReduce, and so on. Now, with the advent of Jupyter Notebooks and these kind of systems over the past few years, it has decoupled the need to have very advanced system admin skills. Now, to simplify Jupyter Notebook for everyone, it's almost like a kind of an IDE, right? Almost like a development environment where you can get a lot of things done for the data science guys, right? So without the need to be understanding the intricacies of how to set up systems, it could be Linux, Windows, or Mac, whatever it is, right? So it's a kind of decoupling, and that's the biggest advantage of Jupyter Notebook. Now, Jupyter Notebook, it's just a foundational block. There are a lot of significant other challenges that is required to work along with Jupyter Notebooks to be able to make meaningful sense of any data sets that you have. You also need some sort of system where you can ingest massive amounts of data, because typically when you're talking about modern day data science workloads, it's typically around terabytes of data at a minimum, in which these large language models or foundational models are being developed and trained on. So you need access to large data sets for training, and you also need a lot of computational power for training. Basically, you scale across multiple GPUs across multiple machines, and once the model is built, you also need a way to be able to serve those models. Now, what we are doing with the TEER project is to build an AI platform where the data scientists can bring in massive amounts of data for training on GPUs, and also be able to serve those models and deploy those models for public or private consumption, depending on the use case for the customer.
Great, thank you for that. So could you tell us a little bit more about how teams tackle some of the challenges that you mentioned and how it can simplify the lives of data scientists?
Right. So, yeah, by the word definition of data scientist is huge amounts of data, right? So, one of the ways in which people struggle with data is there are various data sources. People have localized data, which amounts to like terabytes and terabytes of data. There was a customer who was doing cancer research, and the images that they have taken over a significant amount of time, it's actually quite close to a petabyte and so on. Now, having these varied data sets all across in a native environment, that's one of the biggest challenges. Now, what we have done with Teer is we have made it simpler to bring every data that the user has anywhere onto the EOS platform, which is our S3 compliant object storage platform. So it's like massively built for parallelism and huge amounts of data ingestion. So typically our object storage, we can do something like 15-20 gigabytes per second of data ingestion and a huge amount of get and put throughputs. So we have standardized basically like the data around the object storage that we have built, and people can bring in huge amounts of data and collaborate with that data. So two challenges. One is consolidation of all the data that we are doing by centering around and building the entire Teer ecosystem with object storage as well, which is S3 compliant. The second part is data science does not work in isolation, right? So typically there are teams of people. Some might be doing data cleanup, some might be doing a lot of annotations of data and other stuff, right? So data science is a multi-step process in itself. Now you need multiple people to collaborate together, and I think which is one of the core things that we have done. We have made it easier to share models. We have made it easier to share data sets between multiple data science professionals. And I'm sure when Amol does a walkthrough of the workflow, he will be adding more information on these. Now, basically like consolidating all of the data at once and also be able to share the data, share the models between a team of collaborators. I think those are some of the significant challenges that we have done, that we have solved to start with. And of course, giving a very stable environment where people can consume large amounts of GPUs and be able to do massively parallel training algorithms. I think those are some of the key challenges that we have solved with the Teer project.
Thank you so much, sir. For anyone looking to try out Teer, please drop us an email at sales@e2enetworks.com. We are offering 5,000 free credits for early testers. We will now move through a product walkthrough of Teer with Amol sir. Over to you, Amol sir.
Hi. Can you enable sharing, please?
You should be able to share.
Yeah, so till the time they're able to figure out the sharing part, I think there are two ways in which we have built the credit system. One is if you want to take standalone credits, of course, like please talk to us. We'll be able to enable credits for your workloads. But also more important than that, we also have a free tier program where you can launch a CPU-based a Jupyter notebook, which is basically forever. You can run one single instance of our minimal plan. You can run it for the entire month. We want you to come and explore and basically get benefited and give us feedback as well in the process. And there is also a process for a GPU free tier where I think there's a bundled usage of about 10 hours of an NVIDIA A100 instance. That can be used to run your sample workloads, see for yourself the platform and get comfortable with that. And as you scale along, I think that's a good start. Apart from the standalone credits, we can also help you with the free tier program, which is available by default for anyone who is signing in. So that's something that everyone should be able to try out.
Thank you, sir. Amol sir, I think you should be able to share it now.
I think Amol might be rejoining. Yeah, I think I can see Amol's screen. Over to you, Amol. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. All right. So I think Imran already talked about the key problems in the space. I have also been like actively working on ML tools since 2017. And these three problems I feel still exist in today. And this is what every ML team or any AI team that is starting up or working actively in the space faces every day. So we wanted to kind of have our own take on solutions for these problems. Collaboration basically talks about how teams are able to share data sets, because these are large data set. Someone having that data set on their own machine doesn't help if you want a feedback from your team member. So that is where easily being able to share data sets, show results of your work to your team lead. These are the important things that happen during the process of building an ML model. The second thing is always reproducibility. So let's say a team member builds a model, he wants to share the same results or have his team lead look at the results or another team member look at it. It should be reproducible. Whatever one person is able to do, other person should also be able to do. This is also a key problem which we want to solve. And the third thing, of course, is infrastructure complexity. We want to hide it from any data scientist or ML engineer working on our platform, so that it's kind of invisible to them, right? They just talk about the terms that happen within data science and not really worried about what happens in the background. So let me start with a simple walkthrough of how the dashboard looks like. So this is what the dashboard would look like. You have your team's workspace. You can also have your private workspaces here. You can also separate your work through projects and assign access permissions based on how you manage your projects. And when it comes to like key features, there's let's start with the notebook. So notebook is the plain vanilla Jupyter notebook environment, which will get launched. And within, so let me open up one of the environments. I'll just show you how quickly you can launch a notebook. So you can essentially start with like whatever work you're doing, you can give maybe a model name or something to a notebook. Choose a particular image you're looking for. So we already have predefined images. These are essentially the frameworks that you would use. I mean, you can, of course, go beyond this, but currently I think PyTorch is the one which is getting mostly used. Then you can choose the plans. You could choose a CPU plan, or you could use a GPU plan, and that's it. You can just create a notebook. So it's as simple as that. And once you get your notebook running, you can launch it. I already have a notebook launched here. Right, so this is what your environment looks like. Now this part is about getting started with a notebook, right? You could start with a blank slate where you don't have anything done yet and you're writing a new, maybe you got a new data set and you want to start working with it. So this is that phase of the project. The another phase is, let's say you have a team member who has already done some work and you want to start from there. That's where the Git workflow comes into play. So this is another place where you will be collaborating with your teammate. Essentially, you will be sharing notebook files or notebook code, or you may be sharing a Python code, any of that. So you can clone a repository and get started with it. The second thing that you will notice here is I have listed out these dataset files. So let's say you already, your team has a set of usually all the teams have a set of data sets that they work with. And that is where you would want to be able to share those data sets with your team member. So, and for that, we have this feature called dataset. You can create as many data sets as you want. Each of the data set is essentially tied to a bucket in EOS. You can see that in this data set, which I called as MNIST data set, I have 2 files. This is, I've uploaded it already. This is this. So as soon as I launch a notebook, this data set will get launched. And I can see it in my path. So if I do ls/datasets, I can see 2 datasets that are shared in my team. MNIST dataset is what I'm interested in. Right. So this is second place. Like this is another way to start, where you have a data set on one of the buckets you want to use. And there's a third method where you would start is, let's say you already have, yeah. So let's say you don't have data, you're basically using a public data set. In that case, you would want to download the data set on your environment and get started there. So this is another way of anyone starting up. So in this case, what happens is we have, for each of the notebooks, we have around 30 GB of space, which is available for you to start with, but you can extend it as well. And this is a persistent storage. How this helps is, let's say I shut down this, I stop this notebook and I restart. So what happens is, because we have persistent storage, your data which you downloaded in this disk will continue to exist. So you don't have to keep downloading it again and again. That's the problem with a lot of cloud players, where you launch a notebook, you shut it down. Next time you start, you have to start from scratch again. So we're trying to solve that problem where you come back to your work. Let's say you end your day today, you come back tomorrow, you're not starting afresh. Your work is still there. Another key use of this is, let's say you are done with it and you want to share it with your teammate. Your teammate can simply go and launch the same notebook, get the same data, same notebook code, everything same. So you're sharing an environment with your teammate as well. So that's how the persistent storage will be helpful. I walk through 2 essential features for notebooks. One is dataset and one is notebook. I'll walk through end-to-end pipeline of how a data scientist approaches model building. That will give us more idea on how, like, more features of the platform. So I have a simple notebook here. This is an MNIST notebook. So if you know about MNIST, it's kind of it has key importance in the space, because this was the first model which was built up by Jan LeCun, and it basically started AI revolution. So this is a digit recognition model. And here what we are essentially doing is we're setting up a notebook. Here we have selected whether we want to use CUDA, that is for GPU, or if we want to use CPU. There are options set up here. But at the end of this exercise, what you get is you get a trained model. So I've already trained the model here. I didn't want to spend time on that. So I've trained it for just one epoch, and you can see that the model gets trained. You arrive at certain result. Here you get accuracy of 98%. And now I decide that, okay, this is a good model to really start publishing an API on. So next step that you do is you essentially store the model in a file format, and you can archive it and then upload it to EOS bucket. That's what happens. So the third thing that happens here is you would load the model into EOS bucket. And the way to do that is through models. So you define a model. Now that you have come to a place where you're done with your training, you have a file ready, and the next thing you want to do is publish an API for it. And this is where you can create a model, select the type of the model. Currently, we support PyTorch and Triton, which essentially Triton covers all the frameworks, but in future we will also have more framework coming up here. And here you can use a new bucket. You can create an existing, use an existing bucket or create a new bucket. That is up to you. But the reason to do this is when you create this model, set up this model here, your team will be able to get access to it and play around with it, right? That's what you essentially want. You don't want, like, usually you won't have a situation where one person is doing all the work. You want everyone to be able to test this model, maybe see what's in it, maybe retrain with this same data set. And that is why we recommend that you create a model here instead of just storing it in some bucket and then try to reuse it. So once you set up a model, we also give you steps to set it up in the notebook. So here, if you can see for this model, we already get steps to how to set this up in the notebook, because that's what you want to do. You want to upload your data set, upload your model files into a bucket. So this is the step where I'm doing that, where I simply picked up the command that I was given here. I've just pasted it here, and that's it. My endpoint was ready, and then I could just upload files from my MNIST folder onto this bucket. As simple as that. And as soon as I'm done, I have my model file uploaded in the bucket, and that's it. Like the next step will be, now that I have uploaded my model file into the bucket, I would want to create an API for it. So far, what we have done is we have trained a MNIST model. We have uploaded it into a bucket. The next step would be to be able to create an endpoint for it. That is, to serve it as an API. So once you create an endpoint, you essentially get a HTTP URL, which you can query to execute your model or run queries against your model. And we also give you the sample API request, which you can mostly copy paste, make minor changes to it and run it. So if you see this particular command, the same command I've copied here. I've copied the same command, and I'm able to see that my model is functional, and I can also run queries against that model. So all the endpoints will be protected with an auth token. You can also create an auth token from API tokens here. Ideally, like, it would be best to create a token for each of the clients that you have. Let's say you have a mobile app from where you call the API, create a token for it separately. Or let's say you have different servers that are accessing. Our recommendation will be to create a token for each of those servers, so that you have understanding of which is the source of the request. Just for the audit perspective, it won't block anything. So as you can see, like, the entire flow I have covered in a single notebook. And that's what, like most of the data scientists I've talked to, I've also done myself work in the space. And I think this is where it comes down to. You would have a simple notebook where all the work should happen. So apart from these core pipelines or core processes of building a model, we also have like management features like project activity board. You can look at the project usage as well. One of the key things that comes across is the infrastructure usage, right? Like, everyone doesn't have an unlimited budget like Google's and Amazon. So you would want to have a more understanding of how your team is spending on resources, and that's what is important to us as well. We want that visibility, or we want to be transparent about it, and that's why we have very detailed project usages as well. Yeah, so audit log essentially is also useful if you want to keep track of security perspective, you want to keep track of work and who is doing what. So yeah, that's it from my side. Any questions will be open to take right now.
Yeah, Amol, I think we already have a couple of questions. The first one seems to be, can multiple users work on notebooks concurrently on the same account? That's the first question.
Yeah, so concurrency is possible. Like two people can open the same notebook, but we wouldn't recommend it. Basically, if you look at Jupyter Notebook, it's not as good as Google Docs when it comes to editing the same notebook. So let's say two people trying to use different notebooks could work technically, but we wouldn't recommend doing that.
Or at least doing completely distinguishable activities. If you're doing something X and if you're the other user is doing Y, it might still work. But if you're doing the same things, I think that's where the challenge is going to be. So yeah, the answer to that is technically yes, but it's not a recommended workflow in general. Yeah, and there's another question. What is the difference between a Jupyter notebook and Jupyter Lab itself?
So, so Jupyter Notebook was a core project which started way back, and Jupyter Lab is sort of a IDE to give an IDE feel to a Jupyter Notebook. That's where Jupyter Lab came into picture. We also support simple options, so I just click simple, and you can see the plain Jupyter Lab version, which has notebook kind of a feel. So I think both are equally capable. Like some people prefer Jupyter Notebook, but Jupyter Lab is much more capable because it's an IDE. It's sort of like your VS Code, works better, gives you extensions, different options. I mean, it is again a matter of what you'll really like to use.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get into a VI versus Emacs debate.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
But if you look at it, like it's a notebook, right? Labs is also a notebook environment. Like it's a kind of a wrapper on top of notebook. So you're not leaving your core things that you do in the notebook. There's nothing that is in notebook that is not in labs, but it's not the other way around.
Sure. Any other questions? I'm also, let's also kind of take the opportunity to also talk about some of the features which are going to be kind of in the immediate roadmap and not in the very long term, but in a kind of an immediate roadmap, especially with respect to inference and pipeline support as well. Why pipelines are important? How does it help? We can throw some light on that. And with that, there's another question, Amol. Can I write a C# script and link it with my Unity account and VS Code? Okay.
I am not sure. I don't understand the question. So
I'm not sure what is a Unity account. It could be a
so Unity
server.
is mostly that for gaming platforms. So a lot of deep learning, like reinforcement learning work also happens through Unity. It's a platform that was used for game development, but now people use for AI as well, for 3D mapping and stuff. So so I'm not sure about this yet. Maybe we can take it offline. I would like to understand more. Currently, we don't support C#.
Scan run பண்ண ரெண்டு முடிஞ்சிருச்சு. இதுதான் மீடியம் இது எதுவுமே சக்சஸ் எதுவும் எரர் இல்லைன்னு.
Wilson, can you please?
இது சிவியாரிட்டி வச்சு சார். எல்லாமே 0 சார். இது மட்டும் மீடியம்ல ஒன்று வருது சார். இது CentOS.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Amol. So
right, so
sure.
I think there'll be more deeper discussion, but I think yeah, I would like to understand use case more. At the moment, like I think our focus was mainly on the Python and R, but if there are other use cases which community wants, we can always build on them. So our plan would be also to at some point get VS Code into play. So there are good tools out there which support VS tools, VS Code in the browser, and we want to utilize those. You will, but not an immediate roadmap. At some point, we will have it.
We have another question from LinkedIn. It's, can we call external Python function for notebook?
So when you say external Python function, I don't understand what it means.
Can you paste the question as it is, Uzma? Will that help?
It says, can we call external Python function for notebook?
So I am not sure I understand the question that well. If you're talking about accessing like see, a notebook environment is as good as any, like we want to make it as close as possible to your own desktop environment. So that is essentially what we are aiming at. Most of the features should work similar to your local environment. And if you see that there's a specific feature you need, we can always please write to us and we will address it. Maybe there is a way to do it. And yeah, that's what I can answer right now on this.
If there are any other questions, you can please feel free to send them to us. We'll be more than happy to answer. Now, as we mentioned before, we are also offering 5,000 free credits to those who sign up to try out Theed. So please drop an email to sales@e2enetworks.com to register your interest. Imran, so could you take a moment to please talk about the future plans with Theed? What else can we expect in the coming future?
Yeah, I think in the immediate roadmap, we are talking about pipeline support. So which is basically like a linking of the model training and the inference eventually. So all of that will be a nice pipeline. So that is something that is in the immediate roadmap. And I think there will be some scope for auto scaling in terms of inference, because the moment, so training is a standalone activity, but when you want to monetize your platform for your customers, you need a scalable infrastructure around serving those deployment models that you have just created. So that is one. And I think there are a few other questions that are coming in. So yeah, it's all, so we follow the same models for billing that we have on our traditional products. So you can consume it hourly for now, but I think eventually there will be monthly committed instances as well for your training requirements. You could do that. And yeah, so if you have pre-trained models, you can bring them directly into like a deployment model. I think Amol just mentioned that as part of the workflow. Just upload any model that you have pre-trained anywhere in the world, and you can bring that and run directly use our GPU compute or CPU for setting up an endpoint for running inference. So that is supported. Right. So yeah. So Uzma, like yeah. So the fundamental things to expect would be pipeline support, and also some work around for auto scaling inference deployments. I think those are the critical things. But I think more and more frameworks will be supported. More and more deployment models. I think currently we have PyTorch and Triton, but more models should be supported. More images would be available. Currently you have PyTorch, TensorFlow, Stable Diffusion, and a few others, but I think eventually the catalog will improve so that you can bring in like a variety of data sets to start training. So those are the things to expect in the immediate term on the Theed project.
Sure. We have a couple of more questions from LinkedIn. We have, does Speed also deal with the model evaluation, hyperparameter tuning, and deployment?
I think that's also like something that we have in the process, mainly hyperparameter. That's where I mentioned AutoML as well. So we are, I think it's something that is in the pipeline. We don't have it today, but definitely like hyperparameter tuning is something that we want to offer along with the product.
Can we hide certain portions of code in the notebook?
I am not sure about the use case for it. I mean, we can of course since we have an open Jupyter platform, we can add extensions, public extensions as well. If you are looking to do something of that sort and you have an open source extension you would want to use, you can always install it in your environment and work with it. But globally for everyone, we will have to evaluate the use case and maybe support it for everyone. But if for your use case you specifically need it, please go ahead and use an extension if there is one available.
Thank you so much, Imran sir and Anil sir. Thank you so much for the session. I'd also like to thank everyone watching for attending this event. Like I mentioned, please drop in your details to sales@e2enetworks.com for the free trial, and we'll be delighted to share the credits with you. Thank you. If there are any other questions, you can always reach out to us. But thank you for attending this event.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Please test out the platform, and in case you have any feedback or comments, or you'd like to get in touch for free credits or usage of the free trial, please reach out to us, and wishing everyone a good day. Thanks for joining.